So here we're going to take a look at the track The Pretender, which is the first single from the album Echo, Silence, Patience and Grace. The drums enter after 7 bars after the vocals have joined in. At this point, although the vocals are singing a half time feel, it's good to be feeling the time passing by at twice that rate, because the drums enter with a double time feel and actually play the last 4 eighth notes of that 8-bar section. Only now we're really feeling those as quarter notes to the new double time feel. So after we've played those first 4, what are, in our sense of the time going by, quarter notes, there are then another 2 bars just played along with the guitar. So in essence, we've got 3 bars of just quarter notes, then the bass joins us. And we play this rhythm on the bass drum to go along with the bass guitar, and it gives us this 2-bar pattern. So we have 16 bars of that feel. And then it changes up a gear as we move over to the hi-hat. But that's not before we hit this crash on beat 4 after a flam on the snare on beat 3. So I'll play the last 4 bars of that 16-bar section when we move over to the hi-hat feel, and that will sound like this. Now we're on the hi-hat. The bass drum pattern changes slightly because we're now playing 2 and 4 on the snare. So the bass drum pattern adapts to still lock in with the bass guitar. And so now this pattern sounds like this. We play another 8 bars of that, and we have the same fill as we had ending the previous section, a flam on beat 3, a crash on beat 4 to end that. So here's the last 4 bars of that 8-bar section. So now we shift up another gear, opening the hi-hat slightly, and we've got another 2-bar bass drum pattern to contend with. So this one sounds like this. At the end of that 8-bar section, there's a fill played between the bass drum and snare. And we're playing a 16th note idea, 2 on the bass drum, 2 on the hands, 2 on the bass drum, and then a crash on beat 4. So here's how that bar sounds slowly at first. Then we've got a 2-bar bridge between the verse and the chorus, and it's over to the ride cymbal for that, and it goes into a half-time feel. And so here's how that sounds the first time we hear that. Let's hear that in context with the end of the verse before that. Now we're into the chorus, and we're over onto the bell of the ride cymbal. And again, we've got a 2-bar bass drum pattern. We play this twice for 4 bars up on the ride cymbal, and then it's up to the crash cymbal for another 4 bars. But that transition takes place on beat 4 of at the end of the first 4-bar phrase. And so I'll play that 8-bar cycle for you so you can hear how that sounds. There's a 2-bar gap between that chorus and the next verse, which is just flams on quarter notes on the snare, and then with a crash on beat 4 before we go back into the verse. So I'm going to play the end of the chorus to show the transition back into the next verse. When we finish the second chorus, instead of the flams on quarter notes that we had to take us back into the second verse, it's up onto the crash cymbal with the bass drum filling in all the 8th notes apart from 2 and 4. And we play that for 2 bars and end on beat 4 of the second bar, so you don't hit the downbeat crash of the next bar. So that would sound like this. At the end of the second chorus, instead of doing the flams on the snare for 2 bars, we're up on the crash cymbal for 2 bars, 2 and 4 on the snare, all the 8th notes on the bass drum apart from 2 and 4. And we end that on beat 4 of the second bar, so you don't crash the downbeat of the next bar. So it's like this. The drums then drop out for 4 bars and re-enter with the bass drum just playing beats 2 and 4. This can give you some issues with your balance if you're just going to play that note, and it might find it helps to tap all the quarter notes with this foot, like this. We have 8 bars of that, then the bass drum goes to quarter notes, and we then play 8th notes on the floor tom. And this is the first of our of this build-up section. So we then get 4 bars of that pattern, which sounds like this. We then add the next ingredient, which is the hi-hat on 2 and 4. With this hand, with the hi-hat's nice and open and splashy, and so that sounds like this. And then the next thing we add is the snare on beat 3. And this is done with both hands coming over to flam the snare on beat 3. So it sounds like this. And then finally it's back into a time feel, trashy open hi-hats, 2 and 4 on the snare for the final couple of bars. And so let's hear that whole section played slowly. I'll just play 4 bars of the first 2 and 4 bass drum pattern. Into the final choruses now. There are 4 choruses here at the end, each lasting 8 bars. And so we've just got a few different fills that we can take a look at here. The end of the first 8-bar section is just a simple fill between the bass drum and snare. Second one is a little more challenging. We've got a 16th note fill between the snare and the toms. And so I'll play a bar of time before I play this one. Slowly, that sounds like this. At the end of the third chorus at the end, we've got this syncopated figure played between the snare and the crash cymbals. And I'll play 3 bars of time before I play this, and then I'll play it slowly. After our 4 final choruses, we go over to the ride cymbal for just 2 bars, playing this pattern. And then we're over to the hi-hat for this 2-bar pattern, which sounds like this. As you can hear, after 4 bars of that 2-bar pattern on the hi-hat, we go to the double time feel again, and then end with those accents, which is on the 1 and the end of 1, and then 4 and the end of 4, and then 1 and the end of 1 again. So those accents at the end sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's hear that from the end of the final chorus, through that ride cymbal section, over to the hi-hats, double time feel, to the accents. And so that's all the parts you'll need to play the track, The Pretender.